Okay, we are now live. I've got some creative lighting going on over here, but don't worry about that too much. This is a response video. This is totally impromptu. I have made a couple notes. Let me just make sure that I am online and all is well here. So I'm just going to check that. There it is. There's the live stream. I'll just make sure I can be heard. And that. Yep. Okay. Good. I will see if I respond to questions and stuff. This isn't a Q&A. I just wanted to do this live stream today because I put up a really long video today. And I know some people like shorter, more compact messages from me on a weekly basis. And I'm not going to promise that I'm going to do that all the time, of course, because I've got some really great people lined up to do some amazing interviews. I just did another one today with a former Hare Krishna, and that'll be going up on my podcast on Saturday. Anyway, the long video was the second part of my interview or conversation with Jeff Levin. I'd started that a few weeks ago. We kind of left it off at a midpoint, or at a point, and we picked it right back up from there and moved the ball down the road. And of course, this one ends. This video that I just posted today with Jeff ends on a total cliffhanger. We were going to get to after a couple hours, but we got to another cliffhanger point in the mid 80s, and so I think a lot of you guys are really liking these what I'm calling, for lack of a better term, I'm calling them Joe Rogan style conversations because they're sort of interviews, but really just conversational, and I'm having some great time with that. Um, so you'll see my podcast this week will also be another long one like that. So I thought, well, I better get a little short one in here, and timely today, because if any of you watched or see or follow Tony Ortega's blog, The Underground Bunker, then there was a report today about Luis Garcia, who was a high-level Scientologist who 5 years ago brought a suit against the Church of Scientology for fraud. He was in lives in Clearwater. He brought the suit, I think, in California is where it ended up going. And this went through a lot of ups and downs and turbulations and nonsense, which today ended with news that the lawsuit basically got thrown out. And they could appeal it. We'll see what happens. It's totally up to the lawyers and everybody else to decide on that. That's not up to any of us, obviously. And I don't think it's been decided yet. For a couple of since this video is focused on this lawsuit and sort of some comments and reactions I had to it, let me just throw up some information for you guys based on some notes I took. Now I'm going to quote from Tony's blog here. From today, he said the Garcias, a California couple, so I guess they do live in California, sued the Church of Scientology in this guy, Judge Whitmore's Tampa federal court in 2013 over allegations that they had been defrauded out of hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations they had made to the church over the years. And this fraud case, the specifics, if I recall correctly, had to do with them donating to that monstrosity of a building that Scientology has in Clearwater, Florida. And okay, so I'm seeing a couple comments here that hadn't even heard of the suit. So yeah, this suit's been going on for 5 years, and it had to do with getting money from them. Luis Garcia and his wife or family or whatever had given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the church. I think he got all the way up to OT8, and then he became disaffected with the church, and he had given over a ton of money in straight for books or anything, but from for this building, like I said, this monstrosity of a building, the superpower building, the great big one. And I think specifically, one of the specifics of the case was that they had gotten money from him because they had told him at one point, I think he had donated a few times, but he had said, or they had told him that they were putting this great big cross on the top of the building. It's just, this giant cross. And his donations were specifically going to pay for this cross. And what he came to find out in his period of looking into this or hearing, various things from other Scientologists who had donated, was that they had paid for the cross. Like two other people had been, that money had been given to the church specifically for that. So they'd use that same gimmick to get money out of other Scientologists. And of course, that's crazy. That's fraudulent, right? If I pay for it, then you get somebody else to pay for it and somebody else to pay for it, then, how's that supposed to work? So, oh, somebody's asking if this was covered on Leah's show. I can't remember, actually. There's been so much content over the first two seasons. I think Luis was on Leah's show. I think it was covered on there. Yeah, so you can, obviously check that out too. I'm just trying to give a little summary here of what yeah, Leah did talk to him. Okay, good. So anyway, it was fraud. He took the Church of Scientology, and what ended up happening was the Scientology pulled out contract law and said, well, you signed contracts that said that you would agree to internal church arbitration if if you had a problem. And so the judge was like, okay, good. Well, apparently arbitration is a big thing in the courts now, and they're more than happy to offload their dockets to arbitration, because then they don't have to deal with it and they don't have such overloaded dockets. I'm really not sure what the problem is with our legal system here in the United States, but overloaded is I think an understatement for what some of these judges have to deal with. But no, I'm not rationalizing Whitmore's judgment here. I think it was very poor judgment. So it said here, Tony said, court testimony established that the contracts had been cynically designed to keep members from getting refunds, and that there actually were no procedures for arbitration established by the church. But Judge Whitmore brushed aside those concerns and gave the Garcias no choice but to submit themselves to whatever arbitration rules the church came up with, and he put the lawsuit under a stay. Well, the arbitration took place in October, and of the $969,000 the Garcias were seeking in refunds, the panel awarded them $18,000. So that was the result of the church's arbitration. And it's not the money, it's the fact that we were not even able to present our side of the case. We were not able to present our information. It was a total kangaroo court. And basically, Judge Whitmore said, I don't care. It's a religion, it's contract, it's, blah, blah, blah. He had tons of reasons to kick it out, and that's exactly what he did. He basically said none of that matters. He said, quote, the Garcias agreed to arbitrate in accordance with Scientology arbitration procedures, including the selection of arbitrators in good standing with the church, whose partiality was a given, the judge wrote. So in other words, he knew that it was biased. He knew it was a kangaroo court. And he went ahead and said, well, too bad, you agreed, and that's how it is, and there you go. Which only goes to show you that the court system in the United States is not at all interested in anything like justice. That's, I'm going to address this now. I've always admired people who take Scientology to court, because it is a costly endeavor in time and energy, in morale, as well as in just pure don't come cheap. And Scientology has policies, which I'm actually going to read from here, to delay the process as much as possible, to make it as horrifying, as difficult, as troublesome as they can. And they're very good at it. They have developed these tactics since the 1950s, when Hubbard first wrote the policies about how to deal with people in courtrooms. Very rarely have legal cases gone all the way when somebody takes Scientology to court. This is what I'm referring to, by the way. I'm talking about when people sue Scientology, not when Scientology comes after somebody themselves. Basically, just to voice a little bit of is, access to real justice in this country is kind of like access to healthcare. People who have money, they get it. And people who don't, well, it's random and good luck. So, yeah. So that's not so good. Somebody just asked me if do you think they're still that litigiously powerful? If they want to be, yeah, they've got the money. It's all whimsical. It all depends on whether, on David Miscavige's the Church of Scientology. All the major decisions made in Scientology revolve around David Miscavige and his personality. Um, and yeah, I do think that they have, a near bottomless legal fund, and they still have members who are millionaires and who are willing to give over tons of money to Scientology because they are cult members and they're caught under the sway of the cult. And if people ask for big money, then they give big money. So I just wanted to read from how the church approaches legal cases and the law. Okay, and this is matter. And when I talk about this, this is in the DNA of the church. This is in the policies and bulletins that L. Ron Hubbard wrote. This is what I'm quoting from. So this isn't just like my experience. This is a little bit different than that. What is this now? Oh, for crying out loud! I cannot believe every time I go on, I get a troll. This is awesome. I'm just going to do a little de-trolling here. And good. Okay, this person was timed out. All right, for 300 seconds. We'll see what happens with that. Okay. This is from an Ability magazine, actually. Ability issue number 1 from mid-March 1955. L. Ron Hubbard wrote in this article he called "The Scientologist, a Manual on the Dissemination of Material." It's a fairly long, beefy article. There's a lot of stuff covered in it. And this bit was actually removed from the most recent edition of this. I had to go back in my older versions in order to find this. Quote, "The defense of anything is untenable. The only way to defend anything is to attack. And if you ever forget that, then you will lose every battle you are ever engaged in, whether it is in terms of personal conversation, public debate, or a court of law." Now, if you're wondering why Scientologists get so antagonistic and harsh and are always attacking, that's why, right there. Okay. And the trolls are back. Let me just hide user on this channel. The user's messages will be hidden. Good. See if we can do that. All right. I'll just kind of de-troll as I go along here because I needed to do that. All right. Remove. Okay. Anyway, trying not to get too distracted on that, but it is interesting how quickly they show up on my channel when I do a live stream. Okay. So, to carry on with this quote here, never be interested in charges. Do yourself much more charging, and you will win. And the public, seeing that you won, will then have a communication line to the effect that Scientologists win. Don't ever let them have any other thought than that Scientology takes all of its objectives. The purpose of the suit, he said in just another paragraph down, the purpose of the suit when Scientology is taking people to court, and of course when they're defending themselves, is to harass and discourage rather than to win. The law can be used very easily to harass, and enough harassment on somebody who is simply on the thin edge anyway will generally be sufficient to cause his professional decease. If possible, of course, ruin him utterly. And that's where that quote on ruining people utterly comes from. But that's the whole. So Scientology is not interested in using the law to win. They're using the law to harass people and discourage them and give them a huge, loss. So, open. All right. And there we go. Okay. All right. So that's the attitude of Scientology when it comes to legal cases. And I just wanted to point that out because they certainly executed that strategy to a T in Luis's case. And they do that with every case, and they've got the money to just go and go and go. There's a case in California that has been on the books for longer than Luis's case, Laura DiCrescenzo's case, and they've dragged that thing out for as long as they possibly can, to the point where the judge was like, "Look, that's it. No more delays. We're moving this thing forward." But even now, there's still this, nonsense that they have to get over, that Laura DiCrescenzo's legal team needs to get over in order to get in front of a jury. People, I don't know, people have this idea, I used to, that it's easy, or not easy, but it's fairly straightforward. You have a suit, you have a complaint, you get an attorney, or you file a civil lawsuit and you take them to court and you get your day in court, and that's how it's supposed to go. But that's not how it goes. It doesn't go like that at all. And we watch these TV shows of Boston Legal and Law and Order and all. What happens on those TV shows is what goes on in real life. And this is one of the reasons I get a little impatient. And I probably shouldn't. I mean, I don't mean to get impatient with you guys, but I get a little impatient at the constant questions of, why doesn't the FBI? Why didn't the courts? How is this legal? Well, this is the United States, and we have very lax regulations when it comes to enforcing laws against churches. And the Church of Scientology is a church legally. This is why the tax exemption and getting that taken away and getting their legal recognition of them as a religion would be very, very significant. But getting those things taken away after they're granted is damn near impossible, and especially given Scientology's legal budget. So that's why these are nearly insurmountable obstacles. It is very difficult to take Scientology to task legally. So that's not my message, though. I didn't want to come here and just go, "Bruh, and the legal system sucks and it's all horrible." I wanted to say this, and this is actually, to me, the most important part of this is I admire Luis Garcia. I think it's amazing that he did this. I hope that he is not too, disappointed or hurt by this decision, because he invested obviously a lot of money and a lot of time in this. But legal is, I don't think that's where we're gonna win against Scientology. Is not in the courtroom. We're winning against Scientology in the court of public opinion, and that is where it really matters. That's where the work we're doing is, Leah's doing, all the people, the whole laundry list of everybody who is taking Scientology to task, including all of you guys. This is where we win. The winning battleground is on the internet, in the real world, not in the courtroom, which is kind of this artificially constructed system of justice, which is really just literal interpretations of arcane laws and minutia and myopic ideas about the, interpretations of commas. I mean, our justice system is a joke on a number of points, and the guilty walk free all the time. Innocent people go to jail. Innocent people are on death row. I mean, it's bad. And I don't mean to go on a huge diatribe about this, but it's bad. So my point is not to, do some big thing about the legal system. It's to point out that the obstacles there are legion. Here in this place, on the internet, in newspapers and magazines and the media, this is where we own the space. And this is where we really inflict damage on Scientology that they can't come back from, and they can't use commas and myopic ideas and weird laws from 1894 or arbitration policies or anything else, including lazy, corrupt judges. They can't take advantage of that stuff out in this world. And this is where we are doing real damage to Scientology, and will continue to do so. And it's not like Scientology is going to fold tomorrow. They got a lot of money, they got a lot of buildings, and they still got people involved in it. But but despite all of that, I'm still going to insist, I'm still going to come out with the idea that Scientology is actually dead, and they just don't know it yet. And they can do whatever they want to in a courtroom, and they're still just as dead in the real world. Because it's a hollow victory. I'm sure that, all the OSA lawyers and David Miscavige and everybody are high-fiving each other right now and think that they've won, and that's just not the case. They are dead. That is a corpse. Scientology it's not even dying, it's gone. It's you pick up the heart, it's lifeless, man. It's not happening. And they're not going to regain the upper ground when it comes to the court of public opinion. It's too toxic. The policies, um, the practices, the things I've talked about on this channel in regards to how they deal with people who have mental health issues or have psychotic breaks. I mean, it's horrible what they do, and they can't undo those truths. They can't say, well, that didn't really happen, because it did happen, and we have it all documented. We know exactly how these things go. And even if they shut up people who are coming out of the church now, there are still people coming out of the church now, and they know, and they talk, and these things get out, because you can't stop the truth, and you can't stop an idea. You just can't. Ideas are bulletproof, and they are lawsuit proof. That the truth is out there, and it's going to continue to be out there. And I wanted to really underline and emphasize that in the face of this kind of a law. If they had won, I'm not saying that that the lawsuits that are taken against Scientology are meaningless or shouldn't happen. Like I said, I admire the hell out of people who do that. If we can win those things, if we can take the church to task for that, great. But that's not where victory is going to happen. That's kind of my point. Even if we won, a bunch of cases, it still takes the court of public opinion to keep new members from going in there and shut those doors from the outside. And that's pretty much what we're doing right now with all the work that's going on. And Leah's second or third season, by the way, I have not been involved with it like I was with the first and second season, only sort of on the periphery. But I can tell you that David Miscavige is freaking the fuck out right now, pardon my French, over season 3 with very good reason. This is going to be the most hard-hitting season, and I only know this little tiny bit of it, and it's going to be huge. So she's not done. We're not done, and Scientology is just it's such a anyway, it's dead, and it just doesn't know it yet. And hopefully at some point soon, but we'll just keep fighting and keep carrying on here. And I am continuing to widen my base of activity and with the groups that I'm taking on and describing and talking about here on this channel. I'm going to keep doing that. I've got a lot more coming on Scientology and on other groups. So look forward to that, guys, and keep up the good fight out there. And we will make these groups, suffer for the suffering that they have given to others, because that's justice, and that's what we're doing. Okay, so all that being said, I'm going to be wrapping up here. Thank you for your comments while I was going here. I really appreciate them, and for the folks who popped up here. And look forward to more long interviews coming on my channel this in the coming weeks. And Leah's show, I think, is coming in the next couple months. I think August, I heard. We'll see. I could be told. Don't quote me on that. I actually don't know an actual release date, but hopefully sooner than later. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.